Pressfeed webinar that we're doing with NetVibes. And this is the presentation that Kim and I gave at the Public Relations Society of America International Convention in Washington, D.C. a week ago, I guess, Kim, now, right?
Yes, last week in Washington, D.C.
Right. So welcome to Kim Tosa from NetVibes.
Thanks, Sally. It's good to be here today.
Yeah. And we're going to be talking about how to track and measure PR content and using analytics to give you direction on what's working and what's not working and how to drive your content forward, getting the best results. So we'd also just like to announce to everybody that Pressfeed and NetVibes have an agreement now so that the Pressfeed, people who use the Pressfeed newsrooms will get a NetVibes dashboard, which is really very exciting. And you'll see why in just a minute, why we're so pleased about this. So let's just dive in and get started. If I can get the slides to move, that would be a marvelous thing. There we go. All right, so this is the current Pressfeed newsroom, and we do have some new features. As you can see, we have a lovely big featured story now at the top in the middle. And on the side by the press contacts, you can put in the face, the little picture of your press contacts. And we also now have the ability to create an expert database. And you can do the same thing where you enter all your experts and you can put in a little thumbnail of their headshot. And then when you go to the expert page, you also can enter a video of your expert talking about his or her area of expertise. This is something that journalists have been asking for, because finding experts to quote in their articles, beg your pardon, I don't know why that came up, that's something that is very high on their list of things that's important to them. So they have asked to have that companies should have an expert database. So that's Pressfeed. And let's just move along. Here's our Pressfeed NetVibes dashboard. So Kim, do you want to just explain what a NetVibes dashboard is, why we have one, what it does for us, and why we're so leaping up and down with joy that we have NetVibes dashboards now?
Happy to, Sally. So what you see here is a general overview of the Pressfeed dashboard. You can see there are a number of charts. You can see the web traffic as well as organic referrals in this chart on the left. In the center, we have the average session and the bounce rate for visitors who are coming to the website. And then on the right, you can see the referrals where people are coming to the website from. And so NetVibes dashboards can be completely customized with any type of data, either web-based or from within your own organization that you want to bring all together online to see in one place. So as we go through this, we'll begin to see, we'll look into some of these graphs in more detail.
And I want to just point out, if you look at the top tabs where it says website traffic, that's the tab we're on right now, but look right next to it. You'll see we've got other tabs there as well. We've got Twitter analytics, analysis, industry news. So it's not just one thing. You can put different tabs in and you can collect a whole bunch of data in this NetVibes dashboard. Then we have everything in one place that you can lay your fingers on immediately. It's really terrific. So you'll see here, this is the industry news tab. So do you want to talk about that, Kim?
Absolutely. So this is a tab where we're monitoring what's being said online about the PR industry, about digital marketing in general. So you'll see the two boxes at the bottom are just articles that are coming through with those keywords. So this is a great way to monitor what's happening online and for Sally to get some ideas about what the current trends are in PR, digital marketing, get some ideas for a blog that she might want to write. Up in the top, you see these word clouds, which is another way of relaying this information. Of course, the larger words are the ones that are associated in more articles with the given keyword. In this page, we see, again, the similar setup, but for two different keywords. So in social media, it looks like Google and YouTube are being involved in the conversation a lot right now. And for brand engagement, a lot of people are talking about Starbucks, who is known for very good brand engagement, as well as Google and so on down the line. So again, this is just a way to keep tabs on what's happening online and a way to get some ideas for your own digital content, since coming up with new ideas and coming up with ideas that are topical can sometimes be a challenge.
It totally can be a challenge, and I know when, particularly if you're an agency and you're collecting information to recommend to clients, or if you're actually doing their social for them, then you're spending a lot of time trolling through places to find relevant things to tweet and Facebook about. This makes it really easy, and it saves a huge amount of time.
Great. So in this view, we're looking at what's actually being said about press feed online. So again, in the top left corner, you see there's a word cloud about press feed and what's being said. In this case, a lot of times when people are talking about press feed online, they mention the Fortune 500 or the Fortune 100. And I believe that has to do with, Sally, you had an infographic that came out a while ago that continues to be very popular. Isn't that right?
Yeah, every year we do our new State of Newsroom report, which does talk about newsrooms in the Fortune 100 and the Fortune 500. And we did, as you say, have an infographic 2 years ago that through this analysis we've discovered has still been one of our most popular pieces of content.
So that's really interesting to know that something that came out 2 years ago still continues to be the #1 most talked about item in terms of press feed online.
Right.
This chart in the lower left, you can see where most of the conversation about press feed is coming from. A lot of it's press and media, of course, but also through social networks. Up in the top right, you can see the authors, who is actually talking about press feed the most. And this chart in the middle shows you the sentiment. So as is very typical in these types of sentiment analysis graphs, the gray, which is most of it, is neutral. And then there's also a good amount of positive and 0% negative, which is really good to see.
And even this one on the right, where we can see that most of the top people talking about press feed is us. So that indicates to us that we have to work harder to get more conversation from other influencers in the field. So that's just like one of the things that you can figure out from doing this.
Exactly, to know who's talking about you and where they're talking about you, so that way you can better target your audience.
Right. So how do you use all this data with your content strategy? And we have gone over some of this already, but you could be looking at what is working in terms of topics, what gets comments, what gets likes, what gets favorited, what gets retweeted, what gets shared. And that will give you an idea of what to put your attention on and where to put your resources going forward. One of the ones I didn't mention here, but I did see that one of the things that we're getting a lot of traction on is images. And so that would tell me we need to do more images. So here's one where you can just see the number of views per topic that we've posted in our newsroom. And you'll see that last year's digital media relations trend got over 2,000 views. But if I look down here, every time we did that kind of a thing, the State of Digital Healthcare report, that got almost 1,000 views. And the why brands are adopting digital newsroom. That was another report that we did. That got 793. This webinar on patient-centric hospital marketing got about 500. But definitely, when we do our newsroom report or our media relations report, every time we do one of those kind of pieces of content, it gets way more engagement, views, traffic than anything else. So that, again, also tells me, I can't do one of those every day, obviously, so you are going to have to do other types of content, but it does give me an indication that I could do more. So for instance, what's come out of this is that when we do the State of the Media report, in the Fortune 500 and the Fortune 100, and particularly in the Inc. 5000, they also, those reports break down the companies into other verticals. So they will tell you who the top companies are in healthcare and travel and electronics and IT and so on. It would be really easy for me to, I've already done most of the work of going through all those Fortune 500, and I know what's in all their newsrooms. So if I now just take a different view and say, these are the top 100 in travel, so this is what's happening in the travel industry in terms of news and media. This is what's happening in healthcare in terms of news and media. Excuse me. And so that would give me a whole bunch of new ways to adapt these reports to new audiences when I realize how much sharing and viewing and commenting and liking that I get when I do that kind of a report. So just looking at some of the metrics that it's good for you to track. This comes from Avinash Kaushik. He is a really good person to follow and read on the subject of using analytics to understand your content and your success rate. His blog is called Occam's Razor. And I will just say one thing, he does sometimes tend to get a little technical, but really, if you're interested in analytics and metrics, reading Avinash's blog or his books will do a lot for you. So this is his 4 metrics that he says every website should be tracking. The conversation rate. So that's on Facebook, Google+, LinkedIn, Twitter. So it's the plus ones, the likes, the comments, the replies, the at replies, the retweets, the favoriting, all of that. Amplification is reshares and retweets. So that's someone who's taking your content and re-pushing it out. So that's amplification. Conversation is when they're commenting and talking back to you. And then the applause rate, that's if they like it, that would be your favorites, your plus ones, your likes, etc. And then from his viewpoint, we're looking at economic value, and he's looking at ROI in terms of things like revenue, short-term, long-term, or cost saving. Now, for PR people, you have to look at what your ROI, it might be different. You might not be looking exactly at money terms. But there's always an ROI, particularly now that the metrics in PR have moved from just what we're doing to what our audience is doing. So for years we were only counting outputs. That's what we do. How many press releases did we put out? How many column inches did we get? Whatever. That advertising value equivalency, the AVE, has really been stomped on, thank heavens. If you've read the Barcelona Principles, which was out like 2-3 years ago, they stomped on it really heavily and said, we have to, now that we can track, we have to. And we have to track not only what we did, which is the outputs, but you have to then go further and say, what did the audience get out of it? They call that an outtake. And what did they do? That's an outcome. So your ROI might be how many people downloaded a video, how many people downloaded your report, how many people actually left their name and email address, which gave you a lead, how many journalists come to your site and then ask for or use your material that's in your newsroom. So all of that would be the kind of thing you could be tracking. So on your Google Analytics, here are 5 things that you can easily track. How many visitors are coming to your newsroom? What are the top posts? And you can check that by how many people come to different posts, as I showed you just now. You can also check by time on site. So you might find that somebody comes to one particular post, but they never go further into your site. They don't go and look at your images and your videos and your other posts and see where your blog is and then go and look at your YouTube channel or whatever. So the time on site may be a way to check how important a piece of content is. And then where is this traffic coming from? Are you getting more traffic from Facebook or Twitter or Pinterest or wherever? Because that also tells you where to invest your resources. It's very important to know these things because we tend to just have our own view of what's working. And very often you just think, oh, well, I've got 10,000 people following me on Twitter and only 3,000 on Facebook, so Twitter must be more important. But sometimes when you actually go and look at it, you may be getting more visitors coming from Twitter, but they're not doing what you want them to do. You get fewer people coming from Facebook, but they're more engaged and they share more. And so when you look at everything together, that's when you can see what's really working and where you need to put more attention and more time and more resources. And then, of course, you must be watching your engagement. And then finally, the outcomes. What did they do as a result of your content? So, Kim, you can talk about this one.
Yep. This is a closer look at one of the graphs that we showed at the beginning. So what we see here is the web traffic going to the Pressfeed site, as well as the number of organic referrals. And as you can see, there are ups and downs day by day. But this gives you an idea of the content you're publishing and how popular it is with visitors coming to the site.
So the web traffic is from everywhere, right?
Yes, exactly. That's the raw numbers. So as you can see, the credits, this comes from Google Analytics. So you can actually tie your Google Analytics into your NetVibes dashboard. So instead of having to log into multiple sites and look at this data across different platforms, you can bring it all into your NetVibes dashboard, and that way you can play with the data all in one place. And it gives you a lot more options for actually comparing things. And another great thing about the NetVibes dashboard, which we can't actually demonstrate here because we just have the one chart, but the way the NetVibes dashboard works is so you can chart and you can completely customize all of these different graphs with the color, the type of chart that you want, and then you can actually drag and drop 2 charts on top of each other to instantly compare them. So that's actually what we see here. The organic referrals was its own chart, and the web traffic was its own chart, and you simply drag them on top of each other in order to compare them.
And it's interesting to see that the shape is very similar. So the organic referrals is kind of, the total web traffic is almost following the shape of the organic referrals. And the organic referrals are coming from organic search, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So in this chart, we see, again, it's the time on site is in the orange. And so as you can see, this date, which looks like approximately September 30th, there was a huge spike in the time on site. So clearly, whatever Sally published that day really resonated with the audience. The bounce rate went down that day, as you can see in the green, and the time on site spiked. So people were very engaged with what was on site that day.
And we checked to see what that was. That was a post that I did about the Ice Bucket Challenge. and it was PR lessons learned from the Ice Bucket Challenge. So that's another thing that we have learned from watching our stats, that whenever we take something that's happening in the news for our industry and do our take on it, and then give takeaways for the PR industry, which anybody can do no matter what industry you're in. If there's some news item happening in the transport industry and that's your industry, you could write an analysis of what had happened and then say, and here are the takeaways for people in the transport industry. Do this, don't do that. This was wrong, you should have done that, blah, blah, blah. This is how you could use it. And every time we do that, we get this as well, where we see a really big spike in the traffic and a drop in our bounce rate. So we know that people are staying on the site longer and we're getting more traffic. They really like that content. So, you know, when you look at it, it just looks like, oh, that's a nice chart and it's a bunch of orange and green lines. What the heck am I supposed to do with it? But you have to learn to understand these graphs and dig into them. And when you see something like that big spike, you have to go back and see, well, when was that? As Kim said, that's the 30th of September. So go back and look and see, what did we do on the 30th of September and why did it do that? Because that's how you get all these insights. So once you've been doing that, you can then say, where is the best channel for me to be? And it'll be the one that both you and your audience are most active on, and where you're getting the most engagement, conversation, amplification, and applause. So here we're looking at our social referrals, and you can see that Twitter is the big, well, the most interesting to me is the one, the 6,000, that they say, don't tell me where it comes from. There are moments when I'm not in love with Google Analytics, when they do things like that. But other than that, Twitter first, Pinterest second, that was a surprise to me, because Pressfeed doesn't do all that much on Pinterest. But obviously whatever we have done is engaging people, because we're getting a lot of traffic. It's our number 2, equal to Facebook. Not so much on LinkedIn, which also surprised me, because I thought that we were getting quite a good engagement. We post a lot of stuff to the PR groups on Twitter, beg your pardon, on LinkedIn. But you can't argue with the stats. When you see the stats, you go, oh. That immediately says to me, you better go and take a look at what is going on Pinterest, because you think that Pinterest is not important for you. It's a B2C play, and it doesn't really have anything. Our audience is other businesses, the PR people in other businesses. Why would people on Pinterest be interested in me? Well, apparently they are. So I need to go and figure out what's going on Pinterest and what more I can do, what has been working, and what can I do more of that will give me more traffic from Pinterest. And if I think that I should be getting more traffic from LinkedIn and I'm not, I should look at what am I posting on LinkedIn and when am I posting it, because if I really genuinely feel that LinkedIn is the best for B2B, it's not working for me. So I need to fix it somehow. And on the other side, it'll tell you where your traffic is coming from. And I see that Heidi Cohen is on here. And I know that I've done a couple of good interviews with her. But again, I was not aware that those interviews are still driving lots of traffic. So she obviously is a good source for me. I should see if I can do more with her. And the others are pretty straightforward. Okay, now you know that there are really good analytics on Facebook. So you can go and have a look there as well. Go and see what's happening. And we were happy to see that when we did our release about the 2 new features, we did get a really a nice bump in reach. And then we got engagement too. You see our engagement is up, and our likes and comments and shares was way up. And that will tell you then which one you could invest money in to go and boost your posts, because that actually is working, that we put some in there.
That's a remarkable difference, Sally. Do you know why that post in particular? Was it the content itself, or did you invest some money in marketing that particular post?
Yeah, we did put a little bit of money into marketing it, but it also was because it was about these new features. And then again, you can look into your notifications and see how many likes, links, whatever's you're getting. Now you can put the new Twitter analytics can be pulled into the dashboard, right, Kim?
Yes, exactly. So a few weeks ago, Twitter decided to make all of this data available to everyone. And so this is pulled straight from Twitter Analytics and brought into the NetVibes dashboard. So there's a number of different ways of looking at this. Again, what we're looking at here is there's this huge spike on the 20th of September. We can see the engagements are up in pink as well as the URL clicks. So this gives you an idea of something that Sally tweeted on September 20th really resonated with people. Do you happen to know what that was, Sally?
So that was that Ice Bucket Challenge. And then from that, it brought the traffic spike was on the same day.
Right, exactly.
Because I wrote the post about PR lessons learned from the Ice Bucket Challenge. That was posted in our newsroom. I then tweeted it. So you can see it got a lot of engagement on Twitter, but it also, people clicked the link and came to read the post. So we also got the same kind of spike on our referral traffic to the site.
Excellent. So this is another way of looking at how your content is performing, and so you can get a better idea of which topics and which content is resonating with your audience.
So the purple one is the engagement, so you can see that went way up. But the green one is the clicks, so you can see we did get a lot of extra clicks.
This is another way of looking at that same graph. So we took out the pink engagement just so we could look a little bit closer at some of the other trends that are happening. So as you see, the #1 form of engagement that people are doing on Twitter with Sally's tweets is clicking URLs. And again, we see that spike on the 20th of September. But it's interesting, the favorites are in red. And on some days, the favorites were higher than the clicks, like, for instance, this date on September 30th. So again, you can see exactly how people are engaging with your tweets and what they're doing.
And then an interesting one here, which would be what, like the end of September, like the 29th or the 30th. There's quite a big spike in favorites, but not clicks. So something there must have been tweeted that didn't have a link in it, but people liked it and they favorited it. So again, I could go and look and see when that was exactly. Probably around 27th, 28th of September, I could go and take a look at that. So one of the ways that you can really track what's going on with your content is by making a very specific URL that you put into your press releases, blog posts, articles, tweets, whatever. And you can use this Google URL Builder. Just do a search for that, Google URL Builder. So it walks you through step 1, blah, 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 just like this. So you put in the URL where you want them to go to. And so this one was on that new features a press release. I put in here under campaign medium, it was a press release. And I said it was about experts, building the expert database. And then this was, I named the campaign, get a demo, and then I just click submit. And then this is what it gives me, this long, ridiculous URL. Now, Google Analytics will track that specific URL. You obviously are not going to use this long thing in a tweet because that would be your whole tweet and a half. And it's, besides which, it's very ugly. So you can, but you can take this and put it into a URL shortener like Bitly, and it will still be tracking this long URL. So now you can go into your Google Analytics and you can create a whole custom report that will track only the traffic from this specific URL. So let's say when I do, I'm about to release the next 2015 media relations trends. It's going to be out like in the next, where are we now, October, like a month. So when I do that and I put in the link to go and get the download of the report, I'm going to do one of these URLs so that I can see exactly where they came from. So if I have one that's in a press release, one that's in a blog post, one that's in a guest post or article, was because I write for other sites, then I can track and see which piece of content generated the most outcomes. Does that make sense? So I know these are tiny, but because this is just how Google Analytics works. In order to see the whole thing, unfortunately, it kind of ends up pretty small. So this is the customized. If you look at the top here, you'll see it's underlined in blue, customization. And so it's telling me the traffic that's coming. And there again, you see that spike on September 29th. That was the one where there was favorites that we were just talking about. And now here, you can see which are the top URLs that are bringing me traffic. And when we went to have a look at them, there you can see them a little better. Okay. So this is the first one. And that was a big surprise to me too. This is something that we wrote years ago. What is the business case for using a hosted online newsroom? I was not aware that this is like one of my top pieces of content that's driving traffic to my site. And the second one was this, which is that infographic which was done 2 years ago, which was about the food and beverage adoption in the Inc. 5000. And it still today is my #2 piece of content. So that leads me back to what I'd said in the beginning, that doing these verticals and breaking down all the data into different things. And I know that infographics get a good result, so I could definitely make a bunch of new infographics based on all the data that I've been collecting over the last 6 months of what different newsrooms and different sectors of the industries, how they're performing and what they're doing and who has, because I have all this data about how they're using social, how they're linking to their social. I already have all this data. It'll take not very much effort to go and make a bunch of new infographics. You also can find out how many retweets and favorites and what was retweeted and what was favorited, because that immediately gives you an idea of what your audience is interested in. And again, we were looking at what was being referred from social, and they are pretty much similar things. This one, how to write a press release, that was one of the top ones from social. Then this one, which was about an article on why you need to put multimedia and video with your press releases. And lo and behold, at #3 comes up this infographic again. It's also the #3 most referred and retweeted that sends us from social. So in general, it's on the top 3, and from social, it's the top 3. And then this was last year's Inc. 500 newsroom report with the video. So those are the top ones that are getting traction in social. So as we've said all the way through, our conclusions are we are being found in search, both our site and our newsroom, which is really good news for us. Twitter is our top social platform, but Pinterest is one we should pay attention to. And also we discovered that if we know from other research that we should be doing well on LinkedIn and we're not, we need to figure out why and figure out how to fix that. And then we know now that our content about studies and reports and all the data that we have is what's getting us the most response. So we need to take all this data, pull it apart, and just do many more of those. So because that's what people seem to be the most interested in. So this is why we're really pleased and excited that we have this collaboration with NetVibes. Because instead, as Tim was saying, instead of going to 20 different places and logging in here, logging out there, we now have everything in one place where it's so simple and easy to find everything. You can monitor everything that's being said about you. You can actually pull your Twitter feed right into your dashboard, right, Kim?
Yes, exactly. So you can see a feed of what's being said about PressFeed or what's being said in replies to you.
But I can respond right out of the NetVibes dashboard.
Yes, it's less of a management, more of a monitoring, but certainly knowing what's going on, it gives you an opportunity to respond.
And then you can set up so many different things. You can set up your brand name, names of your execs, competitors, keywords, industry words, and you can track all of that, and that will help you to find what to write about. And then if you start watching the analytics, you can see when I write about this one, that gets a better response than that one. And over time, you can get this big picture view where you go, oh, we should be doing more of that. Gee, we've got lots of content about that. Wow, look over there. People are really interested in that. There's a whole conversation going on about that, and we've got lots of data about that. We can jump right into that conversation. So this is why I absolutely love using analytics to drive content strategy. And it's why Pressfeed has partnered with NetVibes so that when you have a newsroom like this, you have the NetVibes dashboard there to help you to create the content and create it successfully. So that's what we're up to. And let me just open my little thing here and see if you have any questions for us. Let me go and check. I have a question from Lisa. How much does the service cost? So Pressfeed is $2,500 to set up and $295 a month. Do you want to speak to NetVibes?
Sure. There are a number of different packages for NetVibes depending on how many users you want to have, as well as whether you want the analytics on top. So if you want to get started with NetVibes, it's actually free to use for individual users. You can just go to netvibes.com and sign up. You won't actually get any of the analytics capabilities, but it will allow you to pull in different feeds or monitor any keywords that you want online in both media and social. And then from there, you can contact us if you would like to learn more about the professional analytics solutions, the dashboards for teams.
Cool. And then there was just a comment from Paula saying, any link that you put into Twitter will be shortened to 20 characters no matter what it is. So there you go, you wouldn't even have to put it into Bitly. Does anybody else have any questions? You can just pop them into the question tab. Okay, well, if you have other questions, you think of them later, you can contact us. These are our emails. So write down our emails if you want to just contact us at any point. We'd be more than happy to answer any questions from you. And you can follow me on Twitter. It's Sally Falkow, SALLYFALKOW. It's all one word, lowercase. So thanks very much for joining us this morning. I hope you enjoyed our presentation. And if you need any help with analytics, please just drop us a line. We'd be more than happy to assist you. Thanks very much, Kim.
Thank you, Sally.